There's a date floating around the tech world that sounds like a bad movie title. It's Q Day. But for once, the hype is actually grounded in a very real problem. Right now, there are hackers and even some governments who are stealing huge amounts of encrypted data. So that could be your private messages, your health records, your bank's internal files. They can't read any of it yet because it's all scrambled by present day encryption, but they're saving it all the same. They are waiting for Q Day, the day that a quantum computer becomes powerful enough to crack the maths we use to encrypt everything online. If you've sent something private in the last 10 years, it may well be sitting in a digital vault somewhere, just waiting for the key to be invented. Most of our security today is based on a specific kind of maths. It's essentially a very large multiplication problem. Today's fastest computers can't solve that problem. It would take them billions of years to guess the right combination. And this is why, for all intents and purposes, we can currently trust present-day encryption like AES 256 to protect our data. But a quantum computer is different. It doesn't guess just one number at a time like a standard PC. It uses quantum physics to process information in a way that allows it to find the answer almost instantly, unraveling today's encryption in minutes. Q Day is the moment those computers move from the lab into the real world. We don't know when it will be exactly, but experts have generally pointed to around 2030 as the likely window. Now that sounds far away, but for data, the problem starts now because of a strategy called harvest now, decrypt later. So how do you build a lock that a quantum computer can't pick? Well, you have to move away from simple multiplication. For the last few years, an organisation called the National Institute of Standards and Technology, known as NIST, has been coordinating a global effort to find a solution. They've worked with leading mathematicians to develop and test new types of problems that even a quantum computer would struggle to solve. The biggest winner is something called lattice-based cryptography. So that sounds incredibly complex, but just bear with me for a second here. So imagine our current encryption is like one of those number locks with the wheels. It's one-dimensional. A quantum computer solves that easily. The new standard is based on finding specific points in a massive multi-dimensional grid. It's a much more complex and geometric problem that doesn't have a shortcut for quantum processors to exploit. NIST finalised these standards in late 2024, and now in 2026 we are seeing the rollout. Apple has added it to iMessage, Google's got it in Chrome, and major VPNs are now moving their networks over to this standard. It's no longer a theory, it is literally the new global requirement for long-term security. Unfortunately, there's a trade-off. Security always has a cost, and with post-quantum encryption, the cost is performance. So because lattice-based maths is so much more complex, the digital keys are physically larger. They take up more space in the data packets being sent back and forth. So if you turn on post-quantum encryption in your VPN, for example, you might notice a couple of things. Slightly longer connection times, your device has to work harder to generate that complex lock, and a minor increase in latency. So larger data packets take slightly longer to travel across the network. On 5G or super fast fiber broadband, the difference is negligible, but if you're on a weak connection, you might feel the weight of that extra security. Personally though, I think a fraction of a second is more than a fair price to pay to make sure that my data isn't decrypted in 5 years' time. So, how is this actually implemented? Well, we use a hybrid approach. By now, 2026, most top-tier VPNs like Nord, Express, Surfshark, they've started wrapping your data. They haven't stopped using the old encryption because we know it's still really effective against today's threats. Instead, they've kept that, but they've added the new quantum-resistant layer on top of that. So even if a thief steals that data today and waits until 2030 or whenever Q-Day does turn up, they still won't be able to get through that outer layer. You're essentially future-proofing your data. And thankfully, you don't need to be a scientist to stay safe, but you do need to be proactive. So here's what I recommend you do to stay on top of this situation. First, update your apps. These new security standards are being pushed out via regular app updates, and if you haven't updated your VPN or secure messaging app in months, you're likely still using the old vulnerable standards. Check for post-quantum encryption. If you're choosing a VPN, look for post-quantum or PQE support in the settings. If a VPN isn't at least talking about this by now, they're behind and maybe you should consider going to another provider. Importantly, don't panic, just prepare. Q-Day is not going to crash the internet, but it could expose anyone who didn't bother to upgrade their logs. So what did we learn? First, Q-Day is the point where quantum computers become powerful enough to break the encryption we currently use for privacy. Second, your data is already being targeted. Hackers are using a strategy called harvest now, decrypt later. They're stealing encrypted files today, just waiting for when they could finally unlock them. The good news is that the fix is already being rolled out. It's called post-quantum encryption. So the leading VPNs, messaging apps, browsers, they've all started changing the locks, so to speak, using new encryption that even a quantum computer can't crack. My advice, don't ignore the app updates. Check your security settings for a post-quantum or PQ toggle. Protecting your digital history in 5 years' time starts with the choices you make today. Honestly, I hope I've helped you understand the potentially baffling concept of quantum encryption and Q-Day. But for more information, check out the links in the description to the articles that I've written on the topic in the past. Hope you have a great day. See ya.